What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Comic Books NYC. This is the first episode of a new show that I'm calling Original Art Hour, and joining me on this inaugural episode is J Hood Creative. What's up? What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Good, doing all right. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on. So, what is that? What is that behind you right now? Just out of curiosity, that's
one of my
sci-fi piece.
That's one of my paintings.
Nice, man. Can I get a? Hold on. Let me go full screen on you. I want to see that.
So I've got two cameras set up, and this camera is like the older, more clunky one. So
that's really cool, dude. Kind of looks like something from like The Mandalorian.
It's from a show from the 70s called Space 1999.
Oh, okay, cool.
And this is what distracts me from. This is what takes up all my time when I want to be on YouTube. When I'm listening into all you guys do your things
like that. Yeah,
I'm going to town on stuff like this.
That's impressive, dude. That's really awesome.
Thanks.
So real quick, I'm going to say hello to some folks here in the chat. JP's Budget Collecting was in here. Apparently his stick figure art is highly sought after. JP, thank you for showing up, brother. Unruly in the house, always here. Thank you, my friend. JB, Discovery Comics is in the house. What's up, JB? Hope you're doing well. Space 1999. We got Mike the Collector in here. What's going on, Mike? Good to see you, man. So that's it for now, but I will say hello to anybody who pops in here early. So really, I'll get right down to sort of why I wanted to make this show is that I feel like this is a part of the collecting hobby that has evolved and has, I guess, varying degrees of participation from the community, but not a ton of people are talking about it or showcasing this side of the hobby on their channels. Like I've seen some original art content on YouTube, but very few and far between. So the past 2 years for me, my personal collecting has gravitated more towards original art from the comic book side. And I see that only kind of accelerating moving forward just based on my tastes. So I figured why not team up with some of the few guys I know that either are doing commissions, collecting published pages, getting remarks, getting sketch covers done, all that, any kind of original comic art is on the table. And you were one of the first guys that I talked to. And not only is it cool that that's something that you have collected before, but that's what you do for a living. You are an artist. So I couldn't think of a more appropriate guest for the first episode. So thanks for joining me.
Yeah, it's definitely my pleasure. And likewise, I kind of reached out to you a little bit on it along the way to just kind of check in and actually get this rolling. So it's really cool. The timing worked out great. So as far as me being an artist, I can really appreciate, the talent and kind of the time that goes into these things. At one point I was an aspiring comic book artist. I ran out of steam on that real quick. If 30 years ago when I graduated college, if I could have stepped out and been a cover artist like they have cover artists today, I probably really would have pushed hard to proceed with, to pursue that. But at that time, you had to have had published work, like doing pages. The guys like Adam Hughes, I mean, they did their thing through Independent. Then they had that run on JLA and stuff like that, where they were doing, several issues worth of books before they really got kind of a following. And before the market changed, the publishing.
Yeah, that's really interesting because a lot of my favorite guys are guys that do both covers and interiors. Like at least in the modern, like in the current market, those are some of my favorite artists. Whether Ryan Otley, Ryan Stegman, guys that are doing the interior work, but they're also doing these epic covers. Yeah. It's interesting to hear that you said that back in when you were first getting started, that what the publishing companies, I guess, were looking for people with interior experience, not just cover experience.
Right. I think the only guy that comes to mind that was a cover artist back then was somebody like Dave McKean that was doing the Sandman covers. But he had already done Arkham Asylum, I think, at that point. I'm pretty sure it might have been right around the same time. And then Bill Sienkiewicz, he had done his Daredevil graphic novel and Elektra, the miniseries and stuff like that, where he was doing fully painted interiors.
I would love to have a Bill S. piece in my collection. It's something I've been like hunting for, but have not quite found something that I could afford that I want.
I might have something to show you later.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's a great teaser right there. Let's get back into the chat. We got the Coach Vic 7. What's up? Thank you for stopping in. Steven Oates is in here. Big Lion Cat is in here. What's up, bro? Highlight Comic Bros in here. Always good to see you, man. I am probably missing some people. Ed D, Comics and Games in the house. Mortal Biggie Shack's in the house. What's up, brother? Always good to see you. Congrats on your first Rhino pickup. He picked up ASM 41. DS Comics is in here. What's up, bro? DS, always good to see you, brother. Who Dat Comics and Movies is in the house. What's going on, bro? Did I miss anybody? Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, let's get into what people want to see. They want to see some artwork. So let's start with you, man. You're the guest.
All right, I'm going to show like what I would call the lowliest of my published collection, and okay. I would call it the lowliest because it's going to be the least recognizable, because this is a piece that I ended up with from my coloring days. It's an original cover done by Trent Kanuga, who I worked with doing coloring, and honestly I can't remember how it is I ended up with this. All the original art for the series passed through my hands. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I ended up with this, and I'm almost positive I have an Ethan Van Sciver cover buried deep somewhere that I couldn't. That was done for the same series. So again, it was a kind of unless you were paying attention, back in the '90s to all this independent work, you might not know the character specifically. And Trent Kanuga. Trent went on to work in video games. And he's doing like production art and stuff like that for video games these days. Well, at least last I heard.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's page one that I'll show you. He was very obviously McFarlane inspired, and when I was working with him, he was an 18-year-old or 19-year-old kid, and I was just a year or two out of college myself, but I was kind of the elder statesman working with him. I knew more about the business, but he had the opportunity to publish his own series through a couple different publishers, and one of them ended up being full color. So
nice, dude. Very cool.
Yeah,
I would love to. Yeah, I mean, covers are something that I first started getting into this year. I didn't have any comic book covers in my collection. Well, no, that's not true actually. I think I had one. I had a Jock cover that I picked up in 2018 to Azrael #3. So that was probably one of the bigger 2018 purchases. But since you showed a cover, I'm going to show a cover. Let me go full screen here. So I picked this up this year from so this is the cover to the Spider-Man Venom Free Comic Book Day issue that Ryan Stegman did. He did both the pencils and the inks, and it's actually the first appearance of Absolute Carnage. It's the first appearance of that version of the Carnage character who's bonded to the Grendel symbiote. Oh, wow. So as you can see, he did the cover, pencils and inks. There's the published cover right next to it. I'm not a fan of the color work on the published cover. I think the original cover looks a lot better, personally.
I feel the same way about the originals I have. They did not color very well.
Right. And as you can see on the published cover, there's also this little overlay. So that was also part of the piece that I acquired, but it was done on a separate board. Huh. So there you go. So this is definitely one of the major appearances, major covers of 2019 out there for a key character moment on a series that I'm a big fan of and a character I'm a big fan of. So I jumped on top of that one. Pretty happy to have that in the collection.
Definitely very cool. Yeah,
Biggie Shaq's like, wait, what he said? WTF? Yeah, it's a nice. It's definitely. I mean, I'm a big Stegman fan. I got another Stegman piece to show whenever another turn comes up. But yeah, definitely a huge fan of his. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to get a piece of art by a recognizable artist. It's another to get one from either your favorite or one of your favorite artists, and then your favorite characters or one of your favorite characters.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I mean, like, I that was one of my focuses this year, to have the pieces that I was getting, like, actually have a tie-in to what I read and what I collect as a comic book collector, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is like an extension of my comic book fandom and like diving into the original art side of that fandom. So
right.
That I don't know. I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to get like every single artist I like. I'm not going to be able to get every single title, a character I like, but there are certain ones that I keep my eye out for. So, what's up, Art Chemist and 36 Chambers Tattoo Studio? Thanks for stopping in, guys.
So let me throw this question out to you. Yeah. What avenue do you go through to get to buy your original art?
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch. I am actively bidding on the Comic Link original art sessions quite consistently, whether they're the featured auctions or the focused auctions or whatever. So that's definitely one of my go-to destinations. Same thing with Comic Connect. I've never bought original art on Heritage. I'm always looking at it on there, but I've never actually bought a piece on Heritage. Usually those are the pricier, like crazier, like insane investment level pieces and
right.
whatnot on Heritage, and then you're paying a lot of fees, and also that that can get pretty crazy. But I have used the Comic Art Fans website, and they're like art classifieds. Like that's by far the biggest online community for collecting original comic art, and other collectors have their own pages. Like I have my own Comic Books NYC page on there that has like it doesn't have everything I have in my collection uploaded. I got to get around to uploading everything, but it's got most of what I have uploaded on there. So
I've seen that site, and I've kind of browsed around it, but I haven't set up my own page for it yet.
It's a great resource. It's a great resource if you're looking to just learn about this side of the hobby, or actually see what people are selling things for out of their own collections, right? Because people will have their stuff up for sale on there through their own pages with pricing and everything.
Right.
So it is kind of one way to like gauge that kind of market, value type stuff. They also have like all sorts of sales data. Like you can pay to get a premium tier, and then a even more premium tier beyond that, where they're actually aggregating data from original art sales. Obviously, these are one of one unique pieces, so it's a little bit different than like a CGC comic book where you have a specific grade and a specific book with multiple sales in the course of X amount of days. You're not really going to get that kind of view, but you will get a broader picture of what's going on in the market.
Yeah, that's definitely something I need to look into. It's one thing I need to get a grasp on is kind of what the stuff I have is worth.
Yeah.
Unlike you've been collecting just kind of real recently.
Yeah, well, the past few years.
Yeah, most of the stuff I've had, the last I bought was maybe, well, it's before my kids were born, so more than 7 years ago. And the next piece I'll show is going back to, well, it's probably like 19 or 20 years old.
Okay, I'm gonna make you full screen.
All right, so if you're an old guy like me, you'll remember a Marvel imprint called Epic Comics from Marvel. And even within that Epic Comics line, they had this Shadowline saga lineup. So as a young collector, going to my first Chicago Comic-Con, the first big time convention, I just drooled at looking at this original art. It's the first time I'd ever seen original art.
That's cool, dude.
And so within a year or two, I had it. Well, this wasn't a terribly expensive page, but I had, the cash I had the means to start buying art. So
Yeah.
this is a page by, it was originally drawn by Dennis Cowan and inked by Bill Sienkiewicz.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's the splash page from the issue. And I mean, the subject matter wise, as far as the character goes, it wasn't that great. But for a first piece of art to be bought, and I believe I paid like $40 for it. So
wow.
it was like insanely.
It would not be $40 now. I mean, like, just it wouldn't be.
Right. I'm embarrassed by the fact that I've not taken care of this page like I should have. You can see the center of it's kind of browning.
We could do a whole show on how to take care of this stuff, which is something that I'm definitely not an expert at yet.
So
I've been experimenting.
At one point, I had it framed and hanging, and I'm sure it was exposed to light.
Yeah.
But things like back in the day, they would glue on, a full set of lettering and things like that. So I've got this little bits coming unglued, things like that. But I really like seeing that part of it too. You kind of see the hand work in it, as far as the paste up of the lettering and stuff. And even though this is kind of browning up here, the whiteout then really stands out more. It's kind of hard to see on screen, but and
that's a very, very intricate, detailed piece. Like, even from my view of it, zoomed out, kind of like, it just looks insanely cool, dude.
Right.
It's a great page.
I mean, you can't beat the design of the piece.
Yeah.
The inking, all the different ink techniques that Sienkiewicz put into it. But so here's the original page.
Nice.
So, like I said, the way these things color up isn't always as nice as what the originals look. And even though this was on slightly better paper for the era, some of the detail, a lot of the detail you see in the shading that was kind of probably shaded with a grease pencil or something like that, it all fills in. So
that's dope, dude. Yeah, that would definitely be a framed piece on my wall somewhere. I was afraid to take pieces out of my frames, honestly. I was debating whether I should do that or not, because you do get kind of a clearer picture without like the glare and the glass like reflection and all that. But
right, like I said, the timing of doing this was perfect because my whole messy kind of blank wall up behind me has always been a space that I wanted to have all this stuff framed up nice and put all together. So I've saved up a little stash to get it all reframed. So I took a couple pieces out of frames, and I'm going to get it reframed again real soon. So
perfect timing.
Yep.
I like what Art Chemist saying, dim lighting, non-UV lights in the room. That's exactly where, I have all my art displayed. Like, it's kind of like has a dungeon vibe to it, like as far as the lighting, because there's no sunlight like hitting any of my framed pieces on the wall. There's also UV protected glass on all my pieces. Some are museum level archival quality, some are like slightly less. But the framing and presentation of this stuff can get pricey, almost as pricey as the art in some cases. Like, I have pages that cost me less than $100 that cost that to frame. You know what I mean?
I'm real fortunate. One of the mold makers for Hobby Lobby, which is like a national hobby store that has framing, one of the molding makers that makes the frames themselves is right here in town. And they have an outlet and a guy that works part-time just doing framing. And I'm knocked over every time I go in there about how cheap it is to get stuff framed, even with UV glass and all that kind of stuff. It's like $10 or $20 for the sheet of glass and like $12 worth of molding and stuff like that. And it's just nuts. So, I wanted to get all this done at once. So that's why I've been kind of stockpiling. I'll make one big trip and get it all taken care of.
Word. So we got a lot of people in the chat here joining. Hunter Thompson's in the house. D-Run Comics, Bear Island Comics. Who else? Art Chemist I mentioned. Magic Lasso, State Buff 1983. So thanks everybody for joining us. Great to see all the support for the first episode of this. Is it my turn? Your turn?
Yep.
My
Sure.
turn? Okay. My turn. All right. So I'm gonna go down, continue, like do a nice follow up to the piece I showed earlier, which is another Ryan Stegman piece. So, once that character was introduced, Absolute Carnage in the Free Comic Book Day book, obviously it got incorporated into Venom and the miniseries for Absolute Carnage. So I picked up a page from Absolute Carnage issue number 4. This is it's Ryan Stegman pencils and JP Mayer inks on 2 separate boards. So I'm going to show you the inked board first and then the penciled board second. So some collectors are actually kind of hesitant to collect pages where the inker does the inking work on a separate board and the original penciler's work is separate. Like there are some purists that only will do the pencils with the inks on top, and they won't collect other styles. But this is my first page that was created this style. Like the first Stegman that I showed, he penciled and inked both. He did both sides of it. This time he did the pencils and JP Mayer did the inks. But there's the page from Absolute Carnage issue number 4 where Eddie Brock picks up Cap's shield, and he's trying to protect Dylan, and then the horde of Absolute Carnage symbiotes are on the verge of attacking. So it's kind of like that dramatic flip through page to take us into that next scene. So once again, this is Ryan Stegman art with JP Mayer pencils, and there's the ink version. And I will pull out the just be careful here, I don't want to drop stuff. This is the penciled only from Ryan Stegman. As you can see, he pretty much guided the inking on the entire thing. Every part that should be inked is shaded as such, and he basically made it pretty easy for JP to ink this, right?
Yeah.
So solid pencil work from Stegman right there. So that's that's the second piece I'm showing. Loved that series from this year, so I was super stoked to have basically my top story of 2019 to own a page from it.
Yeah, that's really cool to get something that kind of that new, that kind of in the now, really.
Yep, for sure. It's definitely one of my favorite pickups this year.
Yeah, as far as the tight pencils, I know. So I had one opportunity where I penciled I think it was like a 7 or 9 page story it was like a benefit book for Hurricane Katrina. One of the independent publishers was doing essentially doing a trade of stories that was all purely volunteer work, and all we would get in return is just a copy of the book. I never got a copy of the book, but so we were all working kind of with strangers. So when I got my story to do, I really did it as tight as I could. I had no idea who was going to come back behind me and ink it.
Yeah.
So yeah. But on the other hand, you hear stories about guys like Joe Rubenstein working on Frank Miller on the original Wolverine miniseries, where as Joe Rubenstein explains it, the pages on the first issue were relatively tight from Frank Miller, and they kind of devolved from there until by the end of the 4-issue storyline, he was just getting kind of rough, just storytelling, indications and stuff like that. So Rubenstein really did he had
to really create more than what a traditional inking job entails. He's like literally finishing, right? Yeah. He's doing more than just tracing. He's really finishing the final image.
Right. And he had to emulate what Frank Miller had done on the first page or the first issue.
Right.
Versus being someone like, say, a Terry Austin, where he has a very distinct, clean inking style. And regardless of who he's inking over, it's always going to look like a Terry Austin.
Yeah.
With this, you really couldn't tell that Frank Miller hadn't done as much at the end as he had at the beginning.
That's interesting, man. I would love to see those kind of pages and see the before and after. You don't get to see that too much.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one thing I like about collecting pages, this came to mind when you were showing yours, is the fact that unlike a pinup or cover sometimes, sometimes not. It tells a story.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell 24 pages worth, but in most cases, you read it from panel 1, the last panel, whatever number it is, and any given page will tell a story.
Yeah, for sure. Like, one of the things I do feel like is missing with the modern pages a little bit more, though, is the lettering. Like, this is the Mark Bagley page that I picked up in that Hero Initiative auction a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an awesome page. It's Mark Bagley, Doctor Doom, Valeria, Punisher logo. This is my first Bagley page, but none of the dialogue is actually visible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, here's the actual dialogue on the page on printout on the back. But none of that speech bubble stuff and dialogue is actually on the original art page, like they used to be in prior eras of this process. So,
yeah.
All right, your turn, man.
Okay, so the next pages I'm going to show were a gift from my wife. I did my Christmas haul the other day, and I explained that she's always been great about asking me what I want and going out and actually getting me what I want sometimes. And one year we were doing well, and we had some extra cash, and I said, just threw out, I wouldn't mind having a page or two from Stuart Eminem from Next Wave. So, but I explained to her, I said, I like it when you can follow one page from beginning of the page to the end to kind of follow the story. And this double page, this isn't a spread, this is actually a page turn. But it really, from beginning to end, from one page to the next, I think just tells a really cool, just a bite-sized nugget of a story. And even without the dialogue, we don't even necessarily need it. It helps.
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, Stuart Eminem is the best artist of the decade. And he's had a long career, and he's gone through a few different phases in his style. And this was a kind of a real short stint doing a really kind of simplified, almost cartoony style. And there was something about Next Wave that really hit me. It was just a fun comic where Warren Ellis was doing the writing and he was doing the art. And it lasted for 12 issues, and there were 2-issue story arcs. So every 2 issue you got a different story arc. And they kind of played with no-name characters. And actually the character in this page, or these pages, his name was the Captain. But
okay,
when they actually said his name, they said Captain, and then they had 4 symbols for expletive deleted. So whatever your mind would come up with for Captain whatever. There were so many captains, he didn't know what his real name should be. So here's the colorized version of that page.
Sweet. Those are 2 sequential pages, like one after the other.
Yeah, so this is the page turn for that one.
Super cool.
But again, I like the black and white art better than the published color art.
Right. Yeah, dude, I frequently like the black and white, the pencils and inks more than the final product. Like, the more and more I get into this side of the hobby, like, to me, that's, I prefer appreciating the art that way for a lot of stuff. I mean, there are exceptions.
Yep.
But Joey Bag of Sevens is in the house. Thank you for stopping in, brother. Chris Barrett's in the house. Who else am I missing here? There's a lot of people in here. Thank you so much, guys, for your support. Goat 99's in the house. And I'm Patrick Wall's in the house. What's up, Patrick? Thanks everybody for stopping by. We're about the halfway point. It is. Is it my turn again? I'm losing track of the show. Okay, it's my turn again.
Yep.
What should I show? Should I show something old, something new? I'm gonna defer to you. Older, newer?
If you're asking me, I know you'll show it eventually, but I'm an X-Men fan.
You want to see the X-Men page? I will show you the X-Men page. All right. So the story behind this is probably, one of the more significant pieces in my collection, and I literally was at New York Comic Con, okay, 2019 in October. Jeffrey Comic Con was here. We were all, everybody knows that we had a blast at that con. We were literally at the Marvel panel with CB Cebulski, and they did basically an hour-long interview with Chris Claremont. So I got to hear him tell this story, right, about how back in the day, in the the Marvel bullpen early days, we're talking about like late Silver Age, right? Mm-hmm. He was interning at Marvel, so this is before he was official writer of X-Men, starting with issue number 94. Of course, everybody knows the Claremont run, but he started at Marvel prior to that as an intern, and the first idea or concept or whatever that he ever came up with that made it into the X-Men Marvel published universe is this page. And basically, so Roy Thomas was writing the book. This is from issue number 59. Stan Lee was the editor-in-chief, so that the bullpen was Stan, Roy, Chris, and Neil Adams was drawing the book at the time. He was doing the covers and he was doing the interiors. And they basically hit a brick wall on how to write out the Sentinels. Like in this particular issue, Cyclops, what ultimately ends up happening is Cyclops tricks them essentially, and convinces the Sentinels that by destroying the sun, which they attribute to be the cause of all mutants, right? Right. That they would solve their issue of like their mission of joining, essentially tracking down every single mutant and eliminating them. So Cyclops convinces them that flying into the sun or destroying the sun, ultimately they end up just flying into the sun and destroying themselves. Right. That concept is what Chris Claremont came up with as an intern, pitched to Stan and Roy. They liked it, they used it, and Neil drew it. So now, I don't know how long Claremont has been telling the story. I'm sure he's told it a bazillion times at a bazillion different cons. For sure. But when Jeffrey and I were at the con listening to that story, we were in a zone, we were just tripping out that we were hearing that story from Claremont. And I turned to Jeffrey and I was like, dude, can you imagine if the original art for that page ever went up? I wonder who owns it. I wonder where it is. And I didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden I get the Comic Link winter featured auction catalog, in the mail. Mm-hmm. The page is on there. So I went after it. I never thought that I would win the page, frankly. I thought some, bigger ballers out there would easily snag that from me, but
if they didn't know
I got it for less. I got it for way less than I was willing to pay. So
if people hadn't heard that story and didn't know kind of what the deeper significance of it, besides being a Neil Adams X-Men page, which would have been enough for me.
And the Neil Adams X-Men Silver Age splash page is cool enough. I mean, there's no X-Men on it. It's all Sentinels and the Sun. But the significance of it, like to Chris Barrett's point, he tells the story pretty much every chance he can get. And this is the page. So this is the page of the Sentinels flying into the sun from X-Men 59, page 19. Look at that perspective, right? So he signs it right there. But you see the perspective of the Sentinels diving in formation, and then you see them all the way disappearing into the core of the sun right there. So that is the page, and it's the oldest page that I have in my collection. It's the only page that is arguably Silver Age. It comes from a 15-cent issue, so some people who are 15, 12-cent purists will say it's Bronze Age, but it technically came out in the 60s, right? So I consider it Silver Age.
Right.
That is a major art grail for me.
For sure. I mean, I know you've got the Kirby page. You haven't shown that yet.
I do have a Kirby page, and I will show that.
I can't think of anything that would rank near a Kirby page, but a Neil Adams X-Men page.
Yeah. I mean, because this is a more significant moment in X-Men history, whereas the Kirby page I have is a cool as hell page, but it's from the Bronze Age Bronze Age Captain America run, which is less, I guess, consequential, if you will.
Right.
I don't know,
Yeah.
But there it is. So definitely extremely happy to have that in my collection.
So I've got to follow that up, huh?
Well, you asked for it. You're like, I want to see it.
Yeah, guilty as charged. So this one won't be nearly as glorious, but it has a mystery behind it.
Okay.
Because it's advertised as, or was sold to me as a page by Trevor Von Eden, and the writing at the top says Bat Annual, and it's page number 5. And I have never been able to track down where this was used. But it's obviously
there's no markings, obviously, I guess, that can help you track it down on there.
It just says Bat Annual, page 5. Can't remember if the back had. The back says Trevor Von Eden, and the price I paid was $40. But
well, that's an incredible price for that page. But yeah, I would have no idea what that's from.
Yeah, and I've looked up Trevor Von Eden Batman books and stories, and kind of bought as many as I could track down, and also done the same with just Batman annuals.
Right.
And I still haven't been able to figure it out. So hopefully by showing it, maybe someone out there might recognize it and be able to help me out.
That would be amazing, honestly, because that's a cool page, dude.
It's
a super cool page.
I mean, it's definitely legit. All the lettering is all hand done. We can, you can even see, a little bit of correction there on the lettering down there.
Right.
But as far as I'm kind of familiar with Trevor Von Eden's artwork, and could it be him? Yeah, it could. Could it be someone else? Yeah, I guess it could. But yeah, so
awesome, dude.
It's a good conversation piece anyway.
Yo, what's up, Spidey fan? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. So I'm gonna take your concept and run with it, because I only have one Batman page that's a published page. Like, I've got other like Batman commissioned or pinups and like other artwork that's Batman related, but
sure.
I only have one page that's actually from a published Batman comic book. It's this page. So this is from Detective Comics 825, I believe, and 825. This is page 20. So this is a battle between Batman and Dr. Phosphorus. So this was penciled by Marcos Mars and inked by Luciana Del Negro. So I love this page. It is from an era of detective that I completely missed. I was out of comic book collecting essentially during that like 800s or so. So a lot of those storylines I had to like backtrack and catch up to. But when I saw this page up for auction, I jumped on it. I love how like you can see, like, I love the dichotomy in the way that the pencils and inks are doing their job on this page, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the phosphorus stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And the action, how it like is jumping off the panel.
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, man, that's my Batman. That's my single published Batman page in my collection.
And what issue number was that again?
Detective Comics 825.
And who was
Marcos Mars.
I'm just looking that up to see if I've got that issue. I probably do.
What's up, White Whale? What's up, Rob Wurst? Good to see you guys. Yeah, dichotomy, right? That is a quality word. Mark Knapp 68. I don't know if I said hey to you. What's up? Thank you, JP. Appreciate that. Let's see, who else is in here? I believe I have the issue somewhere over here. Let me. Yep. This is the comic book. This is what the cover looks like. The Return of Dr. Phosphorus, right there.
820.
25.
I stopped at 824.
Stopped at 824. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yo, what's up, Jay Salsa? Good to see you, man. All right, you're up.
So I've got a Batman page too with stuff popping out of frame.
The action popping off the page. Yeah, dude,
and it's actually not one page, but 2 pages of a double page spread. So
I'm right there with you, Chris Barrett. Anytime I acquire a new piece, if I don't already have the book, I make it a point to go seek down a copy of the book, just because I love to have the reference, and it looks like J Hood does too.
Definitely. Yeah. So this is a double page spread by Norm Breyfogle from Shadow of the Bat #4.
One of the greatest Batman artists, in my opinion. That's
definitely awesome. Growing up kind of as a Batman fan, and kind of once, of course, when Dark Knight came out and Year One came out, it kind of really shifted the tone of Batman. But it also made DC go out and find, I don't want to say more quality artists, but more dynamic artists. And I think Norm Breyfogle fit that bill. So
dude, that's awesome.
It's definitely a cool spread. It's got virtually, just about every member of the Rogues Gallery in it. Joker plays a significant role. Odd tidbit about it, you'll know this smearing on the side. So I bought this at a convention in 1993-ish, something like that. And so the book itself was only maybe a year or two old when I bought it. And so we brought it home. It was in the trunk of my car. My girlfriend at the time went to grab it and had her sweaty Coke in her other hand, and had just dropped one droplet of water on it, and just kind of passingly just tried to wipe it off and didn't realize it was going to smear everything. And I would notice it almost immediately, and she didn't fess up until after we were married. So it's a rather personal piece to me now, but it's put a ding on the value of it. But I probably still would have married her if I'd have known.
Probably, just probably. That's a great page, man. That's really awesome.
I mean, I love the faces. It's a killer Two-Face there. I mean, even Batman's fist is killer too. And you just can't beat this portrait of the Joker down there.
Yeah, to have a published Joker page in general is a goal list thing of mine. I don't have one. That's super rad, dude. The price on Joker published pages now, like you pay. It doesn't matter who the artist is. You're gonna pay a premium. I'm
gonna have to look into that, because in the last few years I've almost regretted putting my money into this and not a Hulk 181 that I could probably bought a mint condition version for this, or condition for the same price they paid this at the time. But I'll live with that regret.
Great page, dude. How do you have that framed up? Is it all framed up in a giant horizontal glass?
Yep, I had it matted, and I had a blue. I actually had it double matted. I had a blue with a gray double matte kind of under it, but I just want to do it in a basic black.
Very cool.
Along with all my other pages, and tie everything together. But yeah, that's probably the prize of my OA collection.
That's super cool. The prize of my OA collection is the Kirby page, which I'll show in a second if you guys want to see it. But because Alex in here, I want to show this real quick, because I know he's a Paper Girls fan and a Cliff Chang fan like I am. And one of the pieces that I was lucky to be able to acquire, I don't have any double page spreads in my collection, but I guess this technically counts as a double page spread. It's a wraparound cover. So it's actually it's the cover to the 15th issue, and I had this framed also, and it's a very heavy frame. But this is the cover to Paper Girls issue number 15. As you can see on the right side, on camera on the right side is the front of the comic book, the front cover, and then on the left is the wraparound back side of the cover. So that is a 2-page cover double page spread, if you will, from that was penciled and inked by Cliff Chiang. Now the covers with the main characters on it go for much more. So this is more of a cover that was in line with my budget. I wanted a Cliff Chiang Paper Girls cover piece in my collection, and I thought this one was a pretty cool, epic example of it. But I also did want to get something that is from the interior of the issue. That dropping stuff left and right here. So this is an actual page from the interior of that issue that does feature the main characters from the same book. So I have them framed and like displayed side by side on the particular area of the wall that I'm showcasing this. So love those two pages. This is page number 5. So got all the Cliff Chiang goodness right there. One of my favorite modern artists.
Definitely very cool. It's cool to have the cover and a page, from the same series to hang right next to each other. That's really cool.
Yeah. So that's how I display that one. Did you want me to show the Kirby page, or do you want to show something else first?
I'm kind of down to sketches, so if you want to show your Kirby.
All right, so I'll show this will be the last page I show. I didn't really pull out any sketches, although I could probably grab some here if we need to show them, but we're about 15 minutes here. So I will show this page. Definitely the kind of biggest grail art piece pickup that I had this whole year in collecting art, and definitely something that's a holy grail for me is to have a published Jack Kirby page. This page is coming out of this particular comic book, Captain America number 203. So Bronze Age, when he came back to Marvel, and Captain America and Falcon. This is page 22 from that comic. And I need to get a better frame, like a mat, and like go all out with this page. I just haven't spent that additional money. And so this is kind of like my temporary frame solution for now for this page, but I definitely want to do it up epic. But as you can see, this has some insanely detailed Jack Kirby work right here. And it has this epic action panel with Cap and Falcon signed by Jack Kirby.
Yep, right looking right at you.
Yeah. So that is my ultimate holy grail right there in my collection.
There's so much going on that page. It's just crazy.
It's a very intricate page. And Jack wrote this issue. So every word on the page is Jack's. So this means a lot to me, both because he is the artist and he's also the writer on this particular page. So it's all him. It's all his vision, right? So that was something I was beyond stoked to acquire.
Definitely. Stuff like that, it's got to, I mean, you know more about the current market than I do, but how many Kirby pages are being floated around these days?
There's a lot, honestly. I think there's a lot of people like who have had these pages for a while that are trying to get out and get money from them, in the last several years. I am afraid to handle it, honestly. Like every time I've actually had to like, handle the page, like physically, like outside of the frame and whatnot, it's nerve-wracking as hell, dude. It's awesome.
Have your girlfriend drop a pop sweat on it. No, you won't worry about it anymore.
Yeah, like no food or drink. Like I am so thirsty and hungry right now, but I was like, if I'm going to bring all this art out around here, there's got to be no food or drink in any vicinity near this stuff. So yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed, me showing some of those pages. There are other pages that there have been awesome pickups for me this year. Like there's been this one page. I'll just show it real quick, and then we'll get to sketches. Or I'll just show these two simultaneously, I guess. One's from Marvel Team Up, and the other one's from Marvel 2-in-1. These are Herb Trimp pages. So that's from Marvel 2-in-1. And John Romita did the finishing on this. So John Romita Sr. did the finishing on this. So I love that Thing interpretation right there from Trimp and Romita. And then this is another Trimp. This is a Trimp page from Marvel Team Up with Spider-Man on it. So, yeah, those are probably the two, like, I guess, honorable mentions or whatever that I'm just sneaking in here.
Definitely worth mentioning that Trimpy and Romita page. You definitely see the Romita in the face.
You see the Romita in the faces, right? Yeah, that is literally what his role was on that book. So. You'll need to buy about 100,000 copies of Star Wars #1 if you want every variant cover this week. I know that's not on topic, but that is so accurate. All right, you're up.
Okay. So I'm going to have to this hand hold these next few. So my freshman year in college, I picked this up at the
nice.
It must have been a Columbus. I went to school in Columbus, Ohio, so it was probably a Columbus Comic-Con. Picked up this flyer. Bill Sienkiewicz is going to be in Toledo. So I went and I actually had that page I showed and just stood there, and I had him sign that in a bunch of books and just stood there and watched him sketch for a couple hours. So as he would sketch, he would do these real loose kind of doodles on, this is like tracing paper. And then he would layer that in under another piece of tracing paper and tighten it up some more. And then you get to the point where he is almost happy with it and put it under a more opaque piece of paper that you could still kind of see through. And then do an even tighter version. I didn't like the way the tighter end results came out. I liked these looser ones that looked more like him. So these were kind of just laying out on the table. I was like, you going to sell those? He's like, sure. So I bought two of them. I bought this one, the Moon Knight, and Werewolf by Night. It was really cool.
That is really cool.
And then the companion piece to that.
Oh, nice.
Nice burly Batman. After he sold a few of these to me, he started just handing these extra pages that he was doing to whoever was buying the art from him. The final would get these extra sheets to take home with him. But yeah, I just thought that these looser ones they just look so much like his style, because his styles were, I mean, he could be a tight artist, but he was well known for his kind of looser look on things.
That's awesome, dude. I really got to get some. I want to branch out and get more like quick commission, like quicker sketches and things like that, and those kind of pieces. I don't have a ton of that. Like I got some blank comic sketch covers and stuff like that. Like, maybe 12 to 13 of those ish, something like that. I don't know off the top of my head how many total I have. And that's been. I mean, every time I'm at a con, I like try to make it a point to get at least one sketch cover done. But yeah, I feel like I'd like to branch out and do more of that kind of stuff. But it's a different market now for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never bought a sketch cover, and I've got a sketch book that I've had a lot of artists draw in, and I've only got those loose sketches and one other one I'll show in a minute. But other than that, yeah, everything has always been in my sketchbook, and I can't get into sketch covers because I don't slab my books, but I could see getting a sketch cover done, slabbing it and showing it, displaying it. But if I'm just going to get a comic and get a sketch on it and put in a box, it's not the same as a piece of art I can hang somewhere.
Appreciate that, Rob Worst. If you throw us a like, this is the first episode of a show that I'd like to do more episodes down the line with other collectors, artists, etc. in the community. So if you're interested in being on the show, hit me up. I know I'm going to have probably Spidey Fan at some point on there. I was talking to Take the Time Collectibles. I don't know if he's going to do it or not, but I'm trying to get people that I know are into the original art side, whether it's sketches, published stuff, commissions, or what have you, to come on, join, share a little bit from their collection, talk about their experiences with this side of the hobby. So a double, triple thank you for being the first victim.
Take the Time was dropping some fire on his.
Dude, Take the Time's got some fire stuff in his art collection. I love that. Love his collection. Like every day on Instagram, I'm like waiting to see what he's going to put up.
Yeah, it'd be fun to hear the stories behind how we acquired some of those.
Absolutely. So that's why I asked him, but we'll see. Maybe I'll follow up with him. So have him watch this episode, etc. I will show one more thing. We're about 5 minutes out from an hour. This is, I guess, is another honorable mention. This is a Ryan Ottley piece. It's a splash page. So this is from Amazing Spider-Man issue number 13, and having a published page with both Spider-Man and J. Jonah Jameson on the page, that was like one of my art collecting goals, I guess. And Ryan Ottley's one of my favorites as far as moderns. I lean towards the guys that do both cover artwork and interiors. So I love this particular splash page with J. Jonah and Spider-Man.
Yeah. You've got all that going for it, and it's the splash page. That's just a home run.
Page number 1 from issue number 13 of the current ASM run. So
very
sweet.
Cool.
You wanna wrap us up with one more thing?
Yep, I've got one more. Biggie might call this a banger.
Oh, banger indeed. Let's see it.
It's just a little sketch. Batman.
Oh, that is a banger. Is that Mignola?
Mike Mignola. Yep. I got this done around the time he did the Dracula miniseries for Topps Comics. I had that book signed. I can remember the same time I had this done, and he wasn't Mike Mignola like he is today. I think the first Hellboy had just come out, the first comic anyway. So he was developing a name for himself, but I was able to sit there at his table. I was the only one there talking to him for about 20 minutes while he knocked his sketch out for me.
That's awesome, man.
He kind of told the story of how up until that point, he didn't realize how easy it was to sketch or to ink himself.
Yeah.
He was having P. Craig Russell always ink his work. And he said, P. Craig Russell just explained to him one day, he said, you just block in the blacks and leave a couple white spots here and there and you're done. And from then on, Mignola would ink his own work and just kind of go from there.
Oh, wow. That's a great story.
So, yeah, this was from, I was in college, like 93-ish, 94 maybe, something like that. So
awesome, man.
Didn't have to pay too much for this. I paid less for this than you're going to pay just about anybody in Artist Alley today. So. Oh
yeah, I mean, honestly, like the pricing of this market has come really, really far. It's similar to how far the pricing of the slab, graded comic book market has come. So it's not as straightforward of a market to price. I find that the artists that have the historical impact or bodies of work,
Mm-hmm.
Kirby, Buscema, Trim, like these names that have years and years and years of body of work, their work is appreciating faster. The modern pages are more affordable, but there's a range within them also, you know what I mean? Like you have certain modern artists that are going for like 5 times more than newer modern artists. Like, so it's a very subjective game on the published side, and on the commission side, it's mostly controlled by the artists now, you know what I mean? Like they charge what they want to charge,
yep.
And they cut off their list at the amount that they think that they can handle, whether it's per show, per year, it varies.
When they can name their price and they have to tell people no, that helps them know how much or how to value their work. So
that's be done by life. Well, I felt killing it with that Baby Yoda. I don't know if you guys caught my video yesterday, but I mean that I gotta snag me that Liefeld Baby Yoda original art. Nice. That's my next acquisition.
Cool.
All right, so we're basically up here at an hour. Is there anything you want to plug on your channel? What you got going on coming up?
I don't have anything serious coming up. I've been doing a Saturday morning show before John's Comics with Kids, usually doing it at 10 Eastern on Saturdays. And right now we're kind of doing it every other week, and eventually I hope to start doing it weekly so I get real regular at it. Cool. We'll have an issue at hand with The Great Legend coming up later in January, where we'll be breaking down, I believe it's Captain Marvel Adventures 25 with the first appearance of Captain Marvel Jr. So
cool.
It'll be fun to take a real deep dive into just a single classic Golden Age story. And yeah, that's about all I know of that I have planned. And but I'm available to jump in. I'm kind of lightening up on my projects that I've been working on, so I've got a little bit more time to spare and contribute. So I'll do what I can.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, this is probably going to be my last video for a minute. I put out my top comic book pickups of 2019 video yesterday. That took me like 2 days to freaking edit, which was a nightmare, but finally did it, put it out. I think I'll be back in 2020. I don't know exactly when and what time or what day or what the video is going to be.
Thursday.
Yeah, I'll be around. I'll be around. I will be on Tony Fett's channel on Saturday night.
That's a fun show. I like watching.
Yeah,
that.
Yeah. He's a fun dude. He's had a lot of cool people on his channel, and kind of just long form like interviews, and people show some stuff and hang basically. So I'm looking forward to doing that show on Saturday night. But I may pop on some other random stuff between now and then, like
Sure.
Similar to yourself. But I don't have any plans to do anything else on my channel for a minute. I am looking forward to doing episode 2 of Original Art Hour. I can showcase more stuff from my art collection and have another collector on to showcase their stuff. So watch out for that at some point, and hopefully in January. But that's really it. So I want to thank everybody in the chat who joined us. So many of you guys joined us today. I really, really appreciate that. Thanks for all the support.
Yeah, me too.
Have a safe and wonderful New Year's Eve tomorrow night. Stay safe out there, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Later, everybody.